I didn't believe in the devil. Not really. I believed in bad people, bad luck, bad decisions, but not some red-skinned thing with horns waiting at crossroads. That kind of belief felt childish, convenient, something people used to avoid responsibility. That changed on a highway I'd driven my entire life. It was just after 2 a.m. when I left the city, rain streaking across my windshield in thin, restless lines. The sky was pitch black. No moon, no stars. Just clouds hanging low enough to feel heavy. My phone was already dying, screen dimmed to conserve power. GPS shut off because I didn't need it. I knew this road. 2 lanes, long stretches of nothing. A place you could drive for miles without seeing another car if you timed it right. And that night, I had timed it perfectly. The engine hummed steady, tires whispering against wet asphalt. The yellow lines slid beneath my headlights in a hypnotic rhythm. I let my mind drift, replaying things I didn't want to think about. Conversations I'd avoided, promises I'd half kept, choices I told myself didn't matter. That's when I noticed the car behind me. Its headlights were different. Not white, not sharp. They glowed a dull old yellow, like something from another decade. They sat low and wide, keeping a respectful distance that somehow felt intentional. I checked my rearview mirror. Still there. I sped up a little. The headlights did the same. I slowed down. They matched it perfectly. That's when unease crept in. Not panic, not fear yet, just the quiet realization that someone was paying very close attention to me. Rain began to fall harder, thickening into sheets. The world outside the car blurred, shrinking into a tunnel of light and shadow. My wipers worked overtime, squealing faintly with each pass. The radio crackled. I hadn't touched it. A deep, smooth voice filled the cabin, warm and calm, like it had always been there. Long night to be driving alone. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The car drifted slightly before I corrected it. "What the hell?" I muttered. I reached for the radio knob, but it didn't respond. The voice continued, unbothered. "Don't worry. I won't distract you. I know how dangerous that can be." "Who is this?" I said, my voice sounding thinner than I expected. There was a soft chuckle, rich and amused. Someone going the same direction. I glanced back at the mirror. The headlights were closer now. Too close. "I don't want any trouble," I said. "If this is some joke..." "You don't believe in me," the voice interrupted gently. My stomach dropped. The road ahead began to curve, sharper than it ever had before. Trees pressed in from both sides, their branches arching overhead like ribs closing around me. The pavement darkened, cracked in places I didn't remember. "I believe in consequences," I said. "That's it." Another chuckle. "Most people do. That's how I get them to listen." The air inside the car grew warmer, not comforting warm, stale, suffocating. The faint smell of sulfur crept in, mixed with wet rubber and overheated brakes. "Why me?" I asked. There was a pause. "Because you've been negotiating with yourself for years," the voice replied. "I just came to finalize things." A road sign emerged through the rain. "Last exit. No services." I'd never seen that sign before. "I don't make deals," I said quickly. "I never asked for anything." "Oh, you did," the voice said softly. "You just didn't say it out loud." The headlights behind me shifted. Red, not bright, deep, ember red, like something glowing from within. They flooded my mirrors, painting the inside of my car in warning light. I pressed the accelerator, heart pounding, but the speedometer needle dropped instead of rising. The engine coughed. "No," I whispered. "Relax," the voice said. I always take the long way. Gives people time to remember. The road ahead simply ended. No barrier, no guardrail, just blackness. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop inches from the edge. The rain stopped instantly like it had never existed. The engine died. Silence poured in so thick it felt physical. Behind me, the other car stopped. Its door opened. Footsteps approached. Slow, deliberate, crunching on gravel that hadn't been there seconds before. A shadow stretched across my hood, tall and distorted, bending in ways shadows shouldn't. I kept my eyes forward. "You know," the voice said, now coming from right beside me. "Everyone expects fire. Screaming, chains." A knuckle tapped against my window. Gentle. But hell doesn't need any of that. Hell is just the moment you realize there's no road back. The window fogged from the outside in. A reflection appeared in the glass. Not horns, not flames, just a man in the passenger seat. Well-dressed, calm, smiling like an old friend who'd been patient for far too long. "Well," he said pleasantly, fastening an invisible seatbelt. "Ready to keep driving?" I woke up at sunrise. The car was parked on the shoulder of a familiar road. Birds chirped, the pavement was dry. My phone showed no missed calls, no location history between 2:11 a.m. and 6:03 a.m. I drove home without stopping, but sometimes late at night, when the rain comes down just right, I feel someone sit beside me, and the road stretches longer than it ever should. I drive better at night. That's what I tell myself anyway. Less traffic, less noise, less of everything that makes the world feel crowded. The highway feels like it belongs to me after midnight, especially when the rain starts coming down hard enough to blur the edges of reality. That night, the rain had been falling since sunset. Steady, patient, like it had nowhere else to be. I left the gas station just before 1:30 a.m., coffee lukewarm, headlights cutting through mist that clung low to the road. My GPS said I had 47 minutes left until home. Same route I'd driven dozens of times. A straight stretch of highway, a county road, then the long curve past the trees. Nothing unusual, at least not at first. 10 minutes in, the radio began to crackle. Not static, more like breathing, soft, uneven. I reached to change the station, but the dial spun freely, skipping past frequencies without landing on anything. Every channel sounded the same. Rain, wind, that low, wet breathing sound underneath it all. I turned the radio off. That's when I noticed the mile marker. Mile septendismit septini. I passed it without thinking. The rain intensified, drumming harder on the roof, the wipers struggling to keep up. A few minutes later, I saw it again. Mile septendismit septini. Same sign. Same dent near the bottom. Same faint reflectors blinking back at me. I slowed down. That wasn't possible. I checked the dashboard clock. 1:47 a.m., still moving, still driving. The GPS hadn't recalculated or rerouted. The road was straight, familiar. Dark trees on both sides, stretching back like a tunnel. I told myself it was fatigue, long day, too much caffeine, too little sleep. Then I saw it a third time. Mile septendismit septini. This time my stomach dropped. I pulled over. The rain softened as soon as the car stopped, like it had been waiting for me to notice. The engine idled, low and uneasy. When I opened the door, the air smelled wrong, metallic like wet pennies and old leaves. The forest beside the road was silent. No insects, no wind, no movement. I stood there for a moment, staring down the empty highway. No headlights in either direction. No sound but my own breathing. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, careful. Somewhere behind me. I turned around, heart hammering. Nothing. Just trees. Darkness piled on darkness. I got back in the car and locked the doors. As soon as I pulled back onto the road, the rain returned at full force, like it was annoyed I'd stopped paying attention. I drove faster this time, too fast. My hand shook on the wheel. That's when the headlights caught something ahead. A person, standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes, tires skidding, heart climbing into my throat. The car stopped just short of them. They didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't move. They were facing away from me, tall, thin, soaked by the rain, clothes clinging unnaturally close to their body. Their head was tilted slightly to the side, like they were listening to something I couldn't hear. I rolled the window down an inch. "Hey!" I called, my voice sounding small. "Are you okay?" They didn't turn. The rain fell straight through them. I realized then, really realized, that the person wasn't casting a shadow. Not on the road, not in the headlights. My chest tightened. The figure's head began to rotate. Slowly, too slowly. Like it wasn't meant to move that way. I didn't wait to see the face. I floored it. The car lurched forward, passing straight through where they'd been standing. There was no impact, no resistance, just a sudden crushing cold that swept through the cabin, like something had passed through me instead. The windshield fogged instantly. My breath came out in white clouds. The GPS screen flickered, recalculating. Then the road curved sharply to the right, far sharper than it ever had before. I swerved, barely staying on the asphalt. Trees pressed in closer, their branches arching overhead, blotting out the sky. Another mile marker passed. Mile septendesmit septini. I screamed. The road narrowed. The rain sounded heavier, louder, like it was falling inside the car now. The radio turned itself back on. The breathing returned. But this time, it wasn't alone. There were voices underneath it, whispering, layered, overlapping, saying the same thing again and again. "You missed it. You turned too late. You should have stopped." My headlights began catching shapes on the sides of the road, figures standing just beyond the trees, dozens of them, all facing the road, all still, watching. Every time the lightning flashed, I saw them more clearly. People in soaked clothes, torn jackets, bare feet on wet leaves, faces blurred like they'd been smeared across the dark. None of them blinked. The road ended without warning. No sign, no barrier, just blackness. I slammed the brakes again, skidding to a stop, inches from where the asphalt dropped away into nothing. The rain stopped instantly. The engine died. Silence flooded in. Then the figures began to move. They stepped out from the trees, slow and synchronized, surrounding the car. Their footsteps made no sound. Their faces were clearer now, eyes too wide, mouths slack, expressions frozen between fear and realization. One of them pressed a hand against my window. Another leaned close to the windshield. Their lips moved. This is where we realized. This is where it ended. The radio clicked once. A new voice came through, clear, calm, unmistakably human. "Driver," it said gently, "you've reached the end of the road." I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "I just want to go home." There was a pause. Then the voice replied, almost kindly, "So did we." The headlights flickered. The mile marker behind them reflected once more. Mile septindesmit septini. I don't remember how I got home. I woke up in my driveway just before dawn. Engine cold, rain gone, birds chirping like nothing had ever happened. My GPS history showed a straight, uninterrupted drive. No detours, no stops. But sometimes, when I drive at night and the rain starts falling hard enough, my radio crackles, and for just a second, I hear breathing. The rain didn't start all at once. It crept in quietly, almost politely, tapping against the windshield like it was asking permission. At first, I barely noticed it. The road ahead was empty, and the kind of empty that only exists late at night, when even the world itself seems half asleep. It was after midnight. I remember that clearly because the dashboard clock had just flipped over when I passed the last gas station for miles. The sign flickered behind me in my rearview mirror, its buzzing neon light shrinking until it disappeared completely. That should have been my warning. The highway was long, flat, and boring, exactly how I liked it at night, but my GPS chimed softly, rerouting me. Faster route available, it said. I hesitated. The blue line curved off onto a smaller road, one without a name I recognized. I told myself it was fine. Technology knew better than I did. And honestly, I just wanted to get home. The moment I turned off the highway, the rain intensified. It wasn't gentle anymore. It came down hard and fast, streaking diagonally across the windshield, blurring the road until it felt like I was driving through a tunnel of moving water. I turned the wipers up to their highest setting, but they barely kept up, smearing rain more than clearing it. Trees lined both sides of the road, thick, dark, and tall. No houses, no mailboxes, no signs of life at all. Just endless forest pressing in around the narrow strip of asphalt. The farther I drove, the more closed in everything felt, like the road was shrinking. I tried to distract myself by turning on the radio. At first it was just static. Low, uneven crackling that rose and fell with the storm. I twisted the knob slowly, scanning for music. Anything to remind me I wasn't completely alone out here. That's when the static shifted. It thinned out, almost clearing, and for just a moment I thought I'd found a station. Instead, I heard something else. Breathing, slow, heavy, close. I froze, my hand still on the volume knob. The sound wasn't distorted like a radio broadcast should be. It sounded real, like someone was breathing directly into my ear. I shut the radio off. The sudden silence felt wrong, like the world had stopped listening. That was when I noticed the headlights behind me. They were faint at first, barely visible through the rain. 2 yellow dots floating far back on the road. I frowned, trying to remember the last time I'd passed another car. I couldn't. Still, I told myself it was nothing. Late-night drivers exist. People heading home from long shifts. Someone else following the same, faster route. I kept driving. A few minutes passed. The headlights were still there. Same distance, same position. Not gaining, not falling back. I sped up slightly. So did they. My stomach tightened. I slowed down, pretending to let them pass. They stayed exactly where they were. The rain grew louder, pounding against the roof like thousands of tiny fists. Wind pushed at the car, making it sway gently in its lane. The trees leaned inward as the road curved, their branches whipping and creaking, silhouetted against flashes of distant lightning. Then the road dipped sharply downhill. My headlights swept forward and illuminated something standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded, tires screaming as I fought the wheel. My heart leapt into my throat as the vehicle slid sideways before finally stopping, just feet away from a man. He stood perfectly still in the rain, head bowed, arms hanging loose at his sides. Water poured off him, soaking his clothes until they clung unnaturally to his body. He hadn't reacted at all. No flinch, no step back, just standing there like he'd been waiting. I glanced at my rearview mirror. The headlights behind me were gone. The road was empty. My pulse hammered in my ears as I rolled the window down just enough to speak. Cold rain sprayed inside instantly. "Hey," I called, my voice shaky. "Are you okay?" No response. He didn't move. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating his face, or what little I could see of it. Pale. Too pale. His features looked wrong somehow, like shadows didn't sit on them the way they should. "I can call for help," I said, reaching for my phone. The man slowly raised his head. He was smiling, not a friendly smile, not a relieved one. It was stretched wide, pulling at the corners of his mouth like his skin didn't fit properly. His eyes reflected my headlights, glowing faintly, completely empty. "Can you give me a ride?" he asked. His voice was calm, pleasant, almost rehearsed. Every nerve in my body screamed. I don't think that's a good idea," I said. Rainwater streamed down his face, but he didn't blink. "You're already stopped," he said, "and it's a long walk." I locked the doors. The sound echoed loudly inside the car. His smile vanished. For a moment, his face went completely blank. Then, his jaw shifted, lowering just a little too far, like something inside his mouth was pushing outward. "I don't like walking in the rain," he said again, his voice deeper now. He took a step forward. I floored the gas. The car surged ahead, spraying water as I sped past him. I didn't look at him as I passed. I couldn't. The road twisted sharply, and I focused entirely on keeping control as the trees blurred into streaks of darkness. My heart didn't slow down. If anything, it beat faster. That's when I heard it. 3 slow knocks from the backseat window. I nearly lost control of the car. "There's no one there," I whispered aloud, my voice trembling. "There's no one there." Another knock, this time from directly behind my head, like someone leaning in close. The rain followed me all the way home. The knocking followed too, sometimes soft, sometimes loud, sometimes right next to my ear, breathing warm against my skin. When I finally pulled into my driveway, the rain stopped instantly. Dead silence. I sat there for a long time before stepping out. The back seat was empty, but the next morning, when I opened my trunk, muddy handprints were pressed against the inside, like something had been with me the entire drive. The rain started as a whisper, just a soft hiss against my windshield, like fingertips dragging across glass, until it thickened into a steady, angry rattling that swallowed the sound of my tires. The kind of storm that doesn't feel natural, like it wasn't passing through so much as settling in, choosing a stretch of road and deciding nobody was getting out of it clean. I shouldn't have been driving. That's the part people always say when they're telling a story like this, but I mean it in a more literal way. The weather app had screamed red warnings all afternoon. My mom had texted twice, "Wait until morning." My friend had called and said, "Dude, don't be stupid." And I'd said the dumbest thing in the world. "It's only an hour. I'll be fine." An hour. At the start, it really did feel like just an hour. The town lights shrank behind me and the world turned into headlights and darkness. The road was a 2-lane ribbon cutting through trees that leaned in close like they were listening. I turned the radio up and down, trying to find something that didn't sound like static and doom. Every station had the same problem. It didn't want to be heard. There'd be a voice for a second, muffled, drowned, then a wash of static that rose like a wave and crashed over it. I tried Bluetooth. My phone showed bars, then none, then bars again, like it couldn't decide if reality applied out here. I told myself the storm was messing with it, and then the road sign appeared. It wasn't reflective like it should have been. It didn't flash back at my headlights. It just absorbed the light like a piece of wet cardboard. Road closed ahead. There was no detour sign, no orange cones, no flashing lights, just that one message hanging on a crooked metal post. I slowed automatically. My heart did that stupid little jump it does when something feels off and you don't know why yet. I looked for the place the closure started, the barricade, the construction vehicles. Something. There was nothing. The pavement kept going, straight into the rain. I drove on anyway, because I'm an idiot. Because the road wasn't actually closed, right? There's no barricade. The sign could have been left out by mistake. The county forgot it. Some prank. A leftover from weeks ago. Anything normal. A mile passed, then another. The storm deepened, turning the trees into dark smears. Water ran in silver sheets down the windshield, no matter how fast the wipers moved. The road started to shine black and slick like oil. Then my headlights caught movement ahead. A person, just standing at the edge of the shoulder, half hidden by the curtain of rain. They were holding something, maybe a hood over their head, maybe a sign. I couldn't tell. My first thought was they need help. My second thought was nobody stands out here like that unless something's wrong. I eased off the gas. As I got closer, I saw what they were holding. Not a hood, a flashlight. But it wasn't shining forward. It was pointed down at the asphalt, like they were trying to illuminate something at their feet. Their head was bowed. Their posture was wrong. Too still, too stiff. Like a mannequin someone had posed and forgotten. I rolled past slowly, staring. They didn't look up. They didn't react to the car. They didn't even seem to breathe. My skin prickled. I glanced in my side mirror. They were still there, and for 1/6 second I thought their head had turned, following me. But the rain smeared everything into a trembling blur. I pressed the gas, just a little, and then my dashboard lit up. A soft orange warning, low tire pressure. My stomach tightened. Not now. The steering wheel started to vibrate faintly, like the road had turned rough, but I knew the difference. I'd driven long enough to recognize that subtle wobble. I had a flat. I coasted onto the shoulder as far as I could without dropping into the ditch. The rain hammered the roof. The wipers squealed like they were complaining. I put the car in park and just sat there for a second, watching my breath fog the glass. It was too dark outside to see much, but when lightning flashed, it lit the trees up white and skeletal, and for a blink, I saw the figure again. Not beside my car, back where I'd passed them, still standing, still holding the flashlight, still looking down at the ground. That didn't make sense. They were too far back, and the trees between us made it impossible to see them from here. But I had seen them, clear as a photograph, stamped into my eyes by the lightning. I blinked hard. When the darkness returned, so did my rational mind. It was a trick of the storm, reflections, stress. I told myself that as I climbed out of the car, rain soaking my jacket instantly. The wind shoved at me. Cold water slid down the back of my neck like someone had poured it there on purpose. I crouched by the driver's side tire and felt my heart sink. It wasn't just low, it was shredded, not punctured, not slowly leaking, torn open, ragged, as if something sharp had chewed through rubber. My phone flashlight barely cut through the rain, but I aimed it at the ground anyway. I wanted to see what had done that. A nail? A piece of metal? Road debris? The beam bounced over wet gravel and stopped on something pale. A line, thin, chalk white, stretching across the shoulder and into the road. I followed it with the light. The line wasn't a line, it was a crack. A crack in the asphalt, hairline at first, then wider as it crossed the lane, cutting the road like a wound. Water poured into it, disappearing soundlessly. The crack looked wrong. Too straight, too clean, like it had been drawn with a ruler. I stood up, chest tight, and then the flashlight beam caught another sign, further ahead, barely visible through the rain. Not a road sign this time. A handmade one. Cardboard, nailed to a tree, letters scrawled in black paint. Turn around, my breath caught. I stared at it, rain dripping from my lashes. There was no way that had been there before. I would have seen it. I would have. Lightning flashed again. The trees turned white. The road turned white. And the crack in the asphalt, it wasn't a crack. It was an opening. A split that went deeper than pavement. Deeper than dirt. Like the road had been peeled back, revealing a darkness underneath that didn't reflect light at all. It looked like a mouth held open, waiting. When the lightning faded, the opening seemed to shrink. The road looked almost normal again. Almost. I stumbled back to the car, fingers numb as I yanked the door open. I slammed it and locked it without thinking, like a lock could protect me from something that could open the earth. My hands shook so badly I fumbled the phone. No service, not even the emergency call icon. I tried anyway. Nothing. The radio clicked on by itself, static at first. Then, a voice. Not a station voice. Not a warning alert. Not a song. A man's voice, close and quiet, like he was speaking from the passenger seat. "Don't get out!" My blood went cold. I snapped my head toward the passenger side. "Empty," the voice repeated, clearer this time, riding the static like it belonged there. "Don't get out. Don't look down. Don't look down." My mouth went dry. Who is this? The radio crackled, then a laugh, wet and thin, wrong in a way that made my teeth ache. The voice returned. "You already looked." The lights inside the car dimmed. The dashboard flickered like a candle in a draft. For a heartbeat, the engine sputtered, even though the key was still in the same position. The storm outside seemed to lean closer, and then I saw something in the rearview mirror. Headlights. A car behind me, coming up slow through the rain, beams wobbling as it approached. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried. Somebody. Anybody. A tow truck. A driver. A person with a phone. I threw on my hazards. I flashed my brights. I waved through the glass like they could see me. The car rolled closer. Closer, then stopped behind me maybe 20 yards back. Its headlights stayed on, but the engine didn't sound like it was running. No door opened. Nobody stepped out. I watched, breathing shallow, waiting. A full minute passed, then 2. The radio hissed. My phone screen went black, even though the battery had been at 60%. The car behind me did nothing. Lightning flashed. And in that stark white moment, I saw the truth. It wasn't a car. Not really. It had the shape of one, the outline of a sedan. but the surface looked wrong, too smooth, like it had been molded from wet tar. The headlights weren't bulbs, they were holes. Bright holes punched into a dark mass, and there was no driver, no seats, just empty space inside like a hollowed shell. When the darkness returned, my breath came in little panicked bursts. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced myself to think. Get out? No. Stay in? The radio is talking. I turned the key to start the engine. The car clicked once, twice, then died. The dashboard went dark. Total silence except for the rain. I tried again. Nothing. The air in the car felt heavier, like the pressure had changed. My ears popped. My stomach rolled. That's when I noticed the smell. Not rain, not wet fabric, something earthy, like fresh dug soil. I opened my eyes. The crack in the road, the opening was closer. It wasn't possible. I hadn't moved the car. I hadn't rolled. But the line that had been across the lane was now right beside my front bumper, like the road itself had shifted. A low sound came from outside. Not thunder. Not wind. A slow, wet creak, like something huge, adjusting its weight beneath the asphalt. My gaze drifted without my permission down toward the floorboard, and I saw water pooling there. At first I thought it was rain from my clothes, dripping off me. But the puddle was too steady, too intentional. It spread in a thin sheen over the mat. And inside, it was not my reflection. It was the road, the crack, the darkness under it. Like the puddle wasn't water at all, but a window. Something moved inside the black, a shape that didn't have edges, just the sense of mass, as if darkness was thick enough to push through itself. The radio snapped on with a shriek. "Don't look down!" I jerked my eyes up, heart trying to tear out of my chest. Outside, through the windshield, the storm parted for a second, and I saw the person again. The one with the flashlight. They weren't behind me anymore. They were standing in the road in front of my car, just beyond the hood. Flashlight pointed straight down at the crack. Their clothes clung to them, soaked through. Their hair hung like seaweed. Their face was turned away, but their head twitched slightly, like they were listening to something beneath their feet. They lifted the flashlight slowly, not to shine it at me, to shine it into the crack. The beam vanished into the darkness like it had been swallowed. Then the person's arm went slack, and the flashlight dropped from their hand. It didn't hit the ground. It fell into nothing. The person took a step forward, and the road opened under their foot like a trapdoor. They dropped, silent, fast, and were gone. The crack snapped shut like it had never been there. The rain seemed to pause. A second of stillness so complete my brain screamed at the wrongness of it. Then the road opened again, right under my car. I felt it, not as a sound, but as movement. The car lurched, the front end dipping, like the ground had been pulled away. The steering wheel jerked in my hands. Something deep below us exhaled, and the windshield fogged from the inside, my breath mixing with a cold that wasn't mine. I screamed. I don't remember deciding to, but my hands slammed the key again and again like sheer panic could spark an engine. Click, click, nothing. The car tilted more. I heard metal groan. The opening under the hood widened, and my headlights illuminated a vertical drop. No dirt walls, no rocks, just a smooth black descent like the inside of a throat. And in that darkness, far below, I saw points of light. Flashlights, dozens of them, drifting like fireflies in a cave. All pointed downward, all getting farther away. My stomach flipped as the car slid another inch toward the edge. Something tapped the passenger window. softly, once. I turned my head slowly, dread tightening my neck like a hand. The thing behind me, the fake car, was right beside mine now, impossibly close. Its surface pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. And where a driver's window would be, there was a seam opening, peeling back like wet paper. Inside was not an interior. It was the same darkness as the crack, the same depth, the same hungry absence. A shape pressed against it from within, bulging the darkness outward. And then, as if someone had leaned in close to whisper, the radio voice returned, not from the speakers, but from everywhere. See, we get home the same way. My vision tunneled. My throat locked. The car tipped forward suddenly, the back wheels lifting just enough that my stomach rose into my chest. And the engine, after all those dead clicks, roared to life. Not smooth, not normal. It started like it had been choking and finally decided to bite back. The dashboard lights flickered on in sickly bursts. The headlights flared bright. I didn't question it. I slammed the gas. The tires spun, throwing water. The car lurched forward, scraping metal as it clawed for traction. For one breathless second, I thought it was too late, that the front end would drop and I'd be pulled down into that impossible dark with all the drifting lights. Then, the car surged onto solid pavement. I shot forward into the rain, speeding so fast my headlights couldn't keep up with the road. Behind me, something screamed. Not a human scream, not an animal scream. A sound like twisting metal and wet stone and 1,000 radios tuning at once. I didn't look back. I drove. I don't know how long I drove. 10 minutes, an hour, a lifetime. The storm stayed tight around me, an endless corridor of rain and trees and darkness, until, without warning, it stopped. One moment, the rain was pounding so hard, the windshield looked like a waterfall, and the next it was just gone, like I'd crossed an invisible line. The road was dry, the air was still. My wipers squeaked against clean glass. My hands were locked so tightly on the wheel that when I tried to loosen them, my fingers wouldn't obey. My throat hurt from breathing like I'd been running. Ahead, town lights glowed, normal, warm, distant traffic, a billboard for a chain restaurant, bright and stupid. I pulled into the first gas station I saw and parked under the harsh fluorescent lights like they were holy. For a long time I couldn't move. When I finally did, I stepped out and walked around to the front tire, heart still racing. It was fine. No shred, no tear, fully inflated. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Then I looked down at the pavement under my car. No crack, no line. Just the normal oil stains and grit of a real gas station lot. A man came out of the store with a coffee and glanced at me like I was weird. "You all right?" he asked. I swallowed hard. My voice came out thin. There was a road closed sign back there, and he frowned. Back where? I pointed vaguely toward the dark road I'd come from. He shook his head. Only road out that way's been closed for months. Storm washed part of it out. They put barriers up. My stomach dropped. But I drove on it, I said. Just now. He snorted like I'd told a dumb joke. "No, you didn't. Ain't passable. County put up a detour. Everybody knows." I stood there under the fluorescent buzz, feeling the world tilt in a different way. Because I had seen no detour, no barriers, just that one sign that didn't reflect light. And then, as if my body remembered something my mind was trying to bury, I realized my shoes were wet. Not from rain. The ground was dry here, the air was dry. My clothes were damp, sure, but my shoes were soaked like I'd stepped into a puddle. I looked down. Mud clung to my soles. Dark, thick, clotted mud that smelled like fresh earth, and mixed into it, stuck like gravel, were tiny shards of black asphalt. And one small object that made my blood go cold. A piece of cardboard, no bigger than a few inches, with black paint on it. 2 words, smeared but readable. Turn around. I didn't sleep that night. I don't drive that road anymore. But sometimes, when it rains hard and the night is thick, and I'm stuck at a red light with my window fogging from my breath, I swear I can hear it under the sound of the storm. A low, wet creaking, like something beneath the road shifting its weight, waiting for someone to look down.